Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling. So violence is an artificial construction. And we have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence. That is violence of the highest degree.
So that was the current Democratic nominee for mayor, Zohran Mamdani, talking about how New York State notoriously too soft on the criminals. New York State absolutely crazy in that they classify crimes that are not violent crimes as violent crimes. And of course, he was doing this in defense of New York State bail reform law, the original version of it, because he's actively throughout his state assembly career worked against amendments in order to fix the obvious problems with bail reform. But even the examples that he gave right there that are meant to sound reasonable are anything but. He mentioned burglary. When somebody breaks into your home or your dwelling, he does not consider that a violent crime. And I will remind you that in the United States of America, we have something called the Castle Doctrine. And the reason we have the Castle Doctrine is because it is the belief in the overwhelming majority of the states in the Union that when somebody breaks into your home, it should not be on you, the victim of that break-in, to witness them going to try to kill you or seriously injure you before you can defend your castle, your property. But Mamdani is absolutely against that. He thinks if somebody breaks in the middle of the night and they discover you and they may or may not attack you with physical violence or murder you to take what you have, then guess what? That's not a violent crime until the knife is actually in your heart. That's not a violent crime until you're beaten bloody. That's not a violent crime until later on. And by the way, I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit because even those violent actions that are clearly and obviously violent, Mamdani would also argue are just a social construct and no big deal due to his support for the original New York State bail reform law. Again, I will read you the list of the crimes that are totally exempt from bail under the original law, which means you're guaranteed a same-day automatic release that not only did Mamdani support, but he fought back tooth and nail in order to prevent any reforms against this law from coming to fruition. And this is because he's a defund/abolish the police, defund/abolish prisons kind of guy. Again, from the top of the list. Manslaughter in the second degree. Do I even need to go on? Do I even need to read the rest of this list? Mamdani supported a law that said that you get a same-day automatic release no matter what. A judge can never remand you to custody or charge you $1 bail because you committed aggravated manslaughter, and we consider that to be a serious crime, and we're worried you're going to do that again. He thinks this is in the category of a social construct of possibly violent, and again, that's just one crime right at the top of the list of the original bail reform. It gets significantly worse. So we have aggravated vehicular homicide, a socially constructed violent crime if I ever did hear one, criminally negligent homicide, assault in the third degree, aggravated vehicular assault, making a terrorist threat, criminal possession of a gun on school grounds / possession of a firearm, criminal sale of a firearm to a minor, arson in the third and fourth degree, money laundering in support of terrorism in the third and fourth degree, promoting or possessing obscene sexual performance by a child, aggravated cruelty to animals, overdriving, torturing, and injuring animals, animal fighting, unlawful imprisonment in the first degree, coercion in the first degree, grand larceny in the first degree, criminal possession of a controlled substance in the first and second degree, criminal sale of a controlled substance in the first and second degree on or near school grounds, specified felony drug offenses involving the use of children, including the use of children to commit controlled substance offenses, and the sale of controlled substance to children, criminal solicitation in the first degree, patronizing a person for prostitution in a school zone, failure to register as a sex offender, obstructing governmental administration in the first degree by means of self-defense spray, bribery and bribe receiving in the first degree, bribe given to public office, promoting prison contraband in the first and second degree, resisting arrest, hindering prosecution, tampering with the juror or physical evidence, aggravated harassment in the first degree, directing a laser at an aircraft in the first degree, criminal possession of a weapon in the fourth fourth degree, enterprise corruption, i.e. money laundering in the first degree. So make no mistake about it, when Mamdani is saying violent crime is just a social construct, and he tries to name not really all that serious in his mind violent crimes, this is what he actually means. This is what his legislative record shows him supporting. This is what he fought against in order to change. And by the way, included in this list in the assaults that were not bail eligible originally were strangulation, domestic violence, violating a restraining order, and all these other clearly and obviously violent crimes that Mamdani would call socially constructed. And this isn't even getting into his new anti-white tax policy that is explicitly stated as an anti-white tax policy that we're going to get into. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me money, give me money, give me money.
So make no mistake about it, Mamdani is clearly and obviously a socialist, meaning he hates the United States of America, wants to tear down our country, and he has insane asinine political takes like taxation isn't theft, capitalism is theft, and we need to tear down the thing that makes America wonderful and actually makes people like Mamdani, third worlders, immigrate to this country because, again, for some reason, we have a habit of importing anti-American communist scumbags to this country and pretending like it's acceptable. But Mamdani has taken it a step further. When you go to his website, one of the things that you'll find out is that he has a tax plan listed, and the explicit goal of the tax plan is to raise taxes on the white people in order to give black and browns a tax break. Now, Mamdani is talking about tax reform in terms of property taxes in New York City, and what he wants to do is shift the burden from overtaxed homeowners in outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. And he says the property tax system is unbalanced because the assessment levels are artificially capped, so homeowners in expensive neighborhoods pay less than their fair share. The mayor can fix this by pushing a class assessment percentages down for everyone and adjusting the rates up, effectively lowering payments for homeowners in neighborhoods like Jamaica, Brownsville, while raising the amount paid in the most expensive Brooklyn brownstone. Now look, I've seen a lot of reasonable people who are not left-wing lunatics saying that this policy on its own is actually not all that bad, but make no mistake about it, it is explicitly stated to be anti-white, and I will also tell you why it's absolutely terrible, because what he's trying to do is remove a limit on what New York City can do in terms of property taxes, which is actually low compared to other parts of the country, which will end up backfiring on every single neighborhood that he highlighted, and again, just give New York City the means to extort more property taxes from the city that, by the way, already faces crazy sales tax, insane fines and fees, and in addition to that, a city income tax that's absolutely ridiculous, and by the way, kicks in when you start making a little bit over $30,000. But to give the steelman argument to Mamdani's position, what he's trying to get at, although he highlights it along racial lines, is that the date of your property is actually factored in, the date that it was built, when you're doing your tax assessment. Now, this will artificially cap some of the older, near 100-year-old properties, while newer properties will pay a higher percentage. However, the solution to this is to actually normalize it in terms of lowering property taxes on outer borough residents, not making a change that the next official can undo, and by the way, Zohran Mamdani will undo, in order to get more taxes from the inside of New York City, the closer wealthy neighborhoods, and also the outer boroughs that he's promising to give relief. Because make no mistake about it, as soon as this is implemented, as soon as this cap is removed on property taxes on those wealthier buildings, there is no backup legislation that will actually protect the outer borough residents. And we've seen this game played a million times in New York City, where they promise something to target just the rich people, just the wealthy people, but in reality, it ends up spreading out to everyone. Not to mention the fact that this guy is going out of his way to expressly target white individuals. So even when I try to steelman his argument, and you could say you accept that steelman version of the argument at face value, he's telling you his intent expressly right here, which means that he is going to cater a whole host of additional policies to being anti-white, which is unsurprising because, again, this is a left-wing DSA member who hates the United States of America, hates white people, and makes that abundantly clear repeatedly throughout the course of his actions, not just at the statewide level, but during his campaign. I mean, again, it doesn't get more explicit than release violent black criminals because their violence is a social construct, defund the police, which he's also in favor of, and then tax whites more because they're evil white racists and they need to be punished for daring to be born white. But in addition to that, I also have to address something that I touched on just a little bit in my previous video, which is people making the argument that we should somehow accept Zoran Mamdani because he's anti-Israel, and making the case that people like me are only opposed to Mamdani because he's anti-Israel. Let me make this 100% clear to everybody out there in the audience. I do not care at all whatsoever about his position when he's the New York City mayor on a foreign government, unless it impacts what his policies are going to be domestically for the city of New York. Governor Kathy Hochul is very much supportive of Israel, but guess what? She's woke on a bunch of these criminal justice reforms. She backs congestion pricing, and you guys know for a fact that I've attacked her repeatedly on this channel as the incompetent idiot that she actually is. I mean, let us not forget that it is Kathy Hochul that went on The View when they arrested individuals in Long Island who dismembered two murdered individuals and essentially clogged up their drains with their human remains, and they received a same-day automatic release due to bail reform, and Kathy Hochul went on The View and said, oh, well, that's not bail eligible, no big deal, which I absolutely condemned her for. And by the way, that also produced this hilarious clip from Anna Kasparian when she realized that this is the extent of craziness that bail reform actually goes to.
Dismembering a corpse and hiding a corpse after dismembering it, not bail eligible, not a serious crime. I'm not even kidding, guys. Like, when Joy Behar outlined that case, I was like, she's crazy. This isn't a thing. This isn't real. This isn't real. So I looked it up. It's real, guys. It's real. Listen, if being on the left means supporting this, then I'm not on the left, and I'm okay with that. So let me give you the details of the case.
It doesn't mean that.
Okay, I don't know. Let me give you the
Behar's
details.
On the left. We're all on the left. We don't want people dismembering folks getting released. Only a couple of lunatic.
Some do.
I know.
So next year, regardless of the fact that Kathy Hochul is more in line with Israel and more susceptible to the Israeli lobby, I will be going after her to remove her from office just as hard as I went after her, or even harder when she was going up against Lee Zeldin, because I'm not an Israel first person.
And one of the things that we've said, beyond saying that we're going to make this a sanctuary city for LGBTQIA plus workers, beyond saying that we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA plus affairs, is also that we're going to provide $65 million of funding for gender affirming care, the same amount of funding the federal government is threatening to pull out from local providers.
And I want to make this 100% clear to everybody out there, whether you be in the audience or you're an online pundit or a media pundit, if you think we should not attack Mamdani over his Israel position when he's in favor of setting aside $70 million of taxpayer funds for child gender transition, he's in favor of defunding the police because he believes that holding black criminals accountable for their actions is evil white racism, and he believes in socialism, government-run grocery stores, the whole mess of policies that he's putting forward, a ridiculous housing policy that has policies like failed rent freezes, which, by the way, Bill de Blasio did it for 3 years while he was in office, and guess what? It ended up driving up rents because what you're doing is destroying the supply of the housing by actually requiring all these different various regulations and making it more unprofitable while doing nothing about the demand. Then you are 100% undeniably Israel first. If your entire basis for supporting this guy who's against everything that you should stand for is based on the fact that he agrees with you on Israel, you're an Israel first person. Period. Point blank. No argument against it.
Hey, didn't see you there. Congrats though to Zoran Mamdani. It's not over yet, but it's looking like he won the mayoral race in New York City. We were all over every borough today seeing people super excited to go out and vote. I supported him because he's the only non-Zionist candidate on that stage. I thought you needed to be bought and sold, but people are energetic. People are tired of the Zionism, and I'm excited to see what he's got. I'm not a socialist myself. I don't want everyone to be a communist getting free stuff, but I think he has some cool ideas. Hopefully he can do the best, man, and wish you the best of luck. If you do win, New York is with you, and we want you to do well, man.
I mean, even if you're against funding Israel, which is something I get a lot in the comments, and by the way, I'm actually against that too, but I don't want to cut off any ally during a war because that will hurt America's reputation abroad. But after the war, when it ends, hopefully soon, I'm 100% on that train. Totally back Thomas Massie when Trump is attacking him because it's completely unjustified and undeserved. He's one of the best, most principled members of Congress. Mamdani is still too anti-American for you to get behind because he goes far beyond that. Again, a lot of people are going to say based arrest Netanyahu when I play this clip, but really listen to what Mamdani is saying that he's going to do as New York City mayor and think about beyond it, Benjamin Netanyahu, whether or not this is something you're in favor of and is aligned with America First values.
Now to the question around Benjamin Netanyahu, I was asked what I would do after he had just been issued an arrest warrant by the International Court of Justice. My answer is the same whether we are speaking about Vladimir Putin or Netanyahu. I think that this should be a city in compliance with international law. And we have seen other countries across the world who are signatories to the ICC state that they would honor that same request, be it Canada or other countries in Europe. And their honoring of it meant that Netanyahu did not travel.
Mayor Mamdani, would you welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu to New York City for whatever he comes for, given the US is not a signatory to the ICC, so he can travel to the US, unlike a lot of other countries. Would a Mayor Mamdani welcome Benjamin Netanyahu to the city?
No. As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Even though the US is not a signatory to the ICC?
No, it's time that we actually step up and make clear what we are willing to do to showcase the leadership that is sorely missing in the federal administration.
So setting aside the ridiculous idea that Mamdani is going to deploy the NYPD, who he wants to cut the funding for, to go fight with the Israeli equivalent of the Secret Service in order to arrest their prime minister if he dares step foot on New York City soil when the United Nations building is in New York City. And just think about what he said about international law that the United States is not a party to. He says that New York City values are more aligned with international law that the United States expressly rejects, did not sign up for, so he's going to enforce that over American law. While at the same time, by the way, he's going to get rid of the limited cooperation that New York City has currently under Mayor Eric Adams on Rikers Island with illegal immigrant criminals, now that Adams has let ICE actually be stationed there in order to deport the most violent illegal criminals. So he won't obey federal immigration law. He'll fight that tooth and nail, but international law that does not apply in this country, he says the United States is going to be subordinate to that, and he is willing to risk the lives of NYPD officers in this illegitimate law enforcement effort. That's crazy. If you back this person because of that position, you're absolutely off the wall and backwards. On top of that, again, this guy supports a bunch of terrorist organizations. He refused to condemn it, globalize the Intifada, and of course, he's pulling a Sidi Khan, like I predicted, and blaming all the criticism of him on Islamophobia. If you go into his rap song where he praises the Holy Five, people who were caught raising money for a terrorist organization, then guess what? You're Islamophobic. If you're opposed to any of his agenda, apparently the go-to line, unsurprisingly, is Islamophobia.
Let's take the other thing, right? He's talking about the Holy Land Five. In his rap song in 2017, he said, I'm in love with the Holy Land Five. So let's explain what the Holy Land Fives are. They are convicted criminals that have been convicted in 2008 for material support for Hamas. In 2001, the Holy Land Foundation was actually dismantled. In 2001, it was shut down. And in 2008, they were convicted. These 5 people were convicted for supporting Hamas. He is saying that he is in love with those people and asking you to look them up. So I say, absolutely look look them up.
Now, look, a lot of people are saying that everybody should drop out and we should all rally behind Eric Adams. And while I can't stand Eric Adams, the fact of the matter is he's better than the communist that is running against him. But I do want to question this orthodoxy really quickly as well, because there is a Republican in the race and his name is Curtis Sliwa. And in a head-to-head against Adams in 2021, he got 28% of the vote. And there's a lot of people pressuring Sliwa to drop out of the race. But the fact is, we have seen no polling right now in this moment that shows that Adams has a chance in a one-on-one head-to-head match with Zoran Mamdani. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% true, but what if we did polling with these three candidates in the race and we discovered that Sliwa was not splitting the vote with Eric Adams, but Eric Adams, who is a Democrat, was splitting the vote with Mamdani, who's a Democrat, and we could give up on the opportunity to have a Sliwa actually win the mayorship by a three-way race, which would be absolutely amazing and something that I'd be 100% on board with. Again, if we see data that shows that a three-person race is more likely than a two-person race, then we should keep it a three-person race. If we see evidence that a two-person race is more likely for Mamdani to lose than a three-person race, then I will fully get behind Eric Adams for this particular campaign, despite the fact that I can't stand the guy, despite the fact that he's an absolute goofball, and despite the fact that Mayor Eric Adams doesn't know the difference between the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment.
What I would like to show here is to empower parents on how to search a room inside their home. It's imperative that you should know what's inside your household. And no one can state that you can't search a room in your own home. You write the Constitution. There are no First Amendment rights inside your household.
And thinks that your kids are hiding guns and drugs up a baby doll's ass.
Look at all the items inside the room and feel around and see what's the possibility. Something simple as a baby doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs. Run your hands over the pillows and see if you feel anything that's unusual. Like a pillow like this where the button is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I would reach in, see what it is. This one could be hidden inside a pillow, a gun. Maybe something that you'll think that can't be hidden there, but it can.
Now, by the way, quick note, apparently Andrew Cuomo may not have dropped out of the mayoral race. There is reporting that he's going to stick around. That came after the leak reports that he was dropping out. So possibly we're looking at a four-person race. But again, we don't know as of right now until Andrew Cuomo actually makes a decision. But as of right now, reports of his demise may be greatly exaggerated. Now, with all that being said, I will leave these questions up to you guys out there in the audience. Should we back Mamdani because even though he's against everything presumably we believe in, he's anti-Israel, therefore we shouldn't care about all of our previously stated values? Or is it important to make sure that an Islamic communist who's only been a citizen since 2018 never assumed the throne of New York City mayor? Do you think that we should wait for polling on the three-person race versus two-person race? Or do you want to just gut feeling back Adams because of pragmatism and hope for the best? Or again, do you think that I'm actually right? Again, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Mamdani saying tax white people and release black criminals. Till next time.